Since making the active decision to continue my PhD while working full-time at a startup and continuing to make content on YouTube while running my business Accepted Society, the question I get asked the most is, how do you do it? I get questions about productivity, time management, and I think that there is a set of assumptions that when you are somebody that, quote, does it all, that you are exhibiting hustle. You become the epitome of what some would call toxic productivity. I still get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I still spend time with my friends and with my family. I still feel like I get to invest in my hobbies, which includes reading fantasy fiction novels and historical fiction. I love riding horses and spending time at the barn. When making the decision to continue working full-time while completing my PhD and continuing to make content, the thing that I kept coming back to was that I did not want to slip back into the habits that I had about 2 years ago when I did exhibit what I would have termed toxic productivity. And so in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my realistic tips for how to actually do it all. Now, there are going to be a variety of disclaimers throughout today's video because I have really focused on making this video as inclusive and as accessible as possible. And so the tips that I'm going to share with you are not grinding it out 24 hours a day. It is not going to be about getting no sleep and not prioritizing your health. This video is really a holistic approach to productivity. And so if you're at all concerned that the forthcoming tips are going to not suit you, I just hope that you give this video a chance and that you follow along for my 5-step process for realistic productivity. Now, step number 1 to my process for realistic time management is having my non-negotiables as the priority. When I say non-negotiables, this includes things that I need and that we need as human beings in order to be happy and healthy. I spent so many years jeopardizing my friendships, my relationships, and my sleep, my physical needs, my mental health in order to run 3 businesses while doing a PhD or while working full-time as a professional athlete and going to school. I know what it is to sacrifice, and I decided that I am now at a stage in my life where I am not willing to make those sacrifices to my health, to my relationships, just to continue to do more work. And that is why I say start with the non-negotiable. I break this into 3 categories, which are health, connection, and joy. So let's start first and foremost with health. One of the things that I am not willing to settle on is getting a solid night of sleep. Back when I was in college, I used to stay up really late, and I would get between 3 and 5 hours of sleep on average. And this was really detrimental to both my mental and my physical health. It meant that I wasn't going to the gym and nourishing my body. I wasn't eating properly in order to support myself, and I also wasn't sleeping. So that is something I'm not willing to negotiate on. It's not something that I'm willing to settle on. I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, and that requires that I get into bed at like 8. And that is something that is important to me because that means that I can wake up feeling energized and ready to go the next morning. Now, the second category in that is connection. Since moving in with my partner, I have learned a thing or two about putting others' needs ahead of your own, and also realizing that prioritizing your relationships gives back in such incredible ways. I used to never take a weekend off. When I lived in New Haven, I basically just worked every single day, round the clock. I really didn't know how to take that time off. And that was partially because I lacked community. But now that I live with my partner, I really want to be able to spend time with him. So we have dinner together every night. And on weekends, we have at least one day where we go out and we do a pastry run, or we get to spend time where we're still in the same space, but we're doing our own thing. And I've noticed that in the weeks where this is not made a priority, for example, when I'm traveling for work or when we have some other kind of friend obligations, that those are the weeks that I personally suffer. I struggle with my mental health, and I notice that when I don't prioritize my relationship and I don't make time for us to connect and spend time with one another, that it makes it much more difficult to feel happy and healthy during the week. And the same goes for friendships. One thing that I've also tried to prioritize as I've moved to the other side of the world is creating friendships here in London. And one way I've gone about prioritizing this is having one weekend day where I spend time with friends. So whether it's brunch, having friends over, or just meeting up with somebody to go on a walk, having at least one day where I am connecting with my friends and prioritizing those relationships is really crucial for me and for my feelings of happiness, which contribute to my overall productivity. And the last category is joy. One thing that I never prioritized back when I started my PhD was fun, just for the sake of fun. When I started, I was focused on creating my YouTube channel and my businesses, and I used to say that I didn't need anything else because I found it really fun and enjoyable to be working on all of these projects. What I soon realized is that it is so important to have hobbies and things that you invest in for fun that have nothing to do with making money. And this for me includes reading books. As you can see, I am quite the hoarder of books. I love fantasy fiction. I love historical fiction. I freaking love Sally Rooney, regardless of your own opinions on her books. I think that it's just so crucial that I prioritize my time to read every single week and every single day, because it is just something that helps me check out. It's not something I make money at. Occasionally I'll make a video about books, but I've consciously decided not to make a book talk or a booktube channel, at least right now, because doing that would put a monetary value on something that is just meant to be fun. Same goes for riding horses again. I used to ride horses professionally, and now I just want to do it for fun. So I have invested in working with a trainer, and even if it means that I can only go and ride 1 week out of every month, to me, that is worth it, because it is prioritizing my joy and my sense of connection to something that really matters to me. So the message for this section is to think about what it is that is foundational to your needs. What is it that you need in order to show up happily and healthily in other areas of your life? And you can break this into the 3 categories of health, connection, and joy. Now we're going to move on to step number 2 in my realistic time management system, which is what I call hobbiting time. Now, this is based on the idea that we all need recreational, unstructured time that is just for vibes. I personally love Lord of the Rings, and when I was trying to think about what in my schedule I am prioritizing that just leaves space to think and to imagine and to play and to explore, the thing that kept coming to mind was that I wanted there to be time in my schedule that was like a hobbit. So it's time to eat good food, it's time to just hang out with friends, it's time to just exist and to just allow unstructured time into your schedule so that way you can be creative with it. And this can be time to explore a new hobby or a new skill that you would like to develop. And again, I think it's really important to think about these skills and these things that you're working towards to not have a goal in mind, to not have a monetization opportunity. This is really just about just doing something for fun. And one way that you can go about doing this is taking a class on Skillshare. Skillshare is the sponsor of today's video and is an online learning platform where you can take a host of classes in order to really focus on developing your creativity. Whether it's wanting to learn how to edit videos more cinematically, or you want to take a class on drawing or on watercolor paintings, Skillshare is a great way to not only develop skills for your profession, but also to develop skills in a craft that you just want to try. For example, my friend Gio actually has a class on sketches, and one thing I've been really enjoying is going through these lessons and just playing around with illustration again. I used to create a lot of illustrations of horses back when I was a kid, and when I was thinking about this unstructured time that I have, I thought about how you can bring in that childlike play into your routine. And if you wanted to add more structure and learning to it, that Skillshare is really the most perfect and compatible partner to help you along that journey. They also include learning pathways, so you can actually take a series of courses that combine lessons from a variety of experts and creators in order to develop a certain skill. One thing that I have wanted to really focus on over the last several years is just finding ways to improve and get creative with my YouTube videos. And I do this just for me. I really love creators like Life of Riza, and one thing that she does that's really unique in her videos is she uses color grading in DaVinci Resolve in order to capture a particular feeling. And this is a skill that I don't have. It's not something that I get to play around with very much with my videos, and it's something I would really like to learn and to foster. So whether you are trying to fill your hobbiting time with a fun hobby, or if you're wanting to develop a skill for work, you can check out Skillshare's courses and learning pathways with the link in the description below. Skillshare is a longtime partner here on my YouTube channel and has been a service that I've used over the years, both for myself and for my teams, in order to just develop my creative skills. And I highly recommend checking out all of the different classes that they might have and see what might be a good fit for you. And the first 500 people to click the link will get a free month of Skillshare with the link below. Step number 3 is reducing multitasking, or what I like to call code switching. And one thing that I have been playing around with is trying to actually adapt some of the strategies for neurodiverse and more specifically ADHD folks and actually apply it in my own working structures. Now, I am not diagnosed neurodiverse, but there are some structures and recommendations for those that struggle with executive functioning and switching from task to task, which I've employed in my own time management and time blocking systems in order to just reduce the load on my brain. Because I tend to wake up and work on my dissertation and then need to switch to working for my full-time job, I really struggle with switching contexts. And so when I began this, I had these really tight time blocks, which would require that I start a particular type of project and would need to switch because there's a call, and then I would switch to another project. And it just felt like I was constantly asking my brain to switch contexts in a way that was actually just depleting my energy all of the time. And so 2 of the strategies that I've employed have been, 1, actually extending the time of each block beyond the actual time frame of that task, so allowing a little bit more flexibility. And the other thing that I've added into my routine is options. There are days that I wake up and I just don't want to work on my dissertation. Or there are days that there are certain projects that I had planned on working on for my job that just don't seem like something I want to be working on that day. What I have started doing is actually giving myself priority options. I tend to make my schedule the day before, and I don't want to completely throw the schedule out the window if I just don't feel like doing something and my brain doesn't feel energized by that. And so I have options. For example, I tried to work on my dissertation for at least 4 days out of the week. During those blocks, I have 3 days where I need to do a writing sprint, which means that there's about 1 day where I can either decide to do a writing sprint or I can do other work relating to my dissertation. The third option is that I have 4 days that need to go to the dissertation, but there's one morning that's an optional morning. And so, for example, if I wake up on a Wednesday and I really feel like my brain isn't with it to work on the dissertation, then that is a day that I can do option C. I have a menu list that when I wake up first thing in the morning, it can be a writing sprint day, a research day, or an option day. And option days usually turn into either starting work really early so that I can end early, or it goes towards creative work for my YouTube channel. And so one thing that I've tried to lean into is just recognizing when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed or if I'm feeling a little burnt out on something and giving myself some options. And so to summarize, focusing on having bigger blocks for time blocking that allow for you to switch your mode less times throughout the day. And two, to give yourself a little bit of a menu when deciding what needs to be done. So I try not to give myself this really rigid structure unless I have a deadline, in which case there's not much of an option. And I know that I'm likely going to get questions about when you just don't feel like doing the thing at all. And that is when I lean on community. So I lean on the community at Accepted Society, in particular when working on my dissertation, because if I go into a session and I say, hey, this is what I want to get done, I'm just so much more likely to do it if I'm also co-working with other people using modes of body doubling, which have been proven in order to help people even virtually focus. And if that's not working, I'll have my partner help me, or I'll jump on a co-working session with a friend. And the goal is that I need to complete that thing and kind of gamify the process a little bit in order to make progress, because there are definitely things that I am more likely to avoid than others. And so even if it's been given a menu, I, for example, might avoid the writing sprint. And that is when I use resources like leaning on others, leaning on community, leaning on co-working sessions in order to help me just get the damn thing done. Step number 4 is maximizing energy by lowering the bar. It looks like I have a lot going on, but there are some days when I can just lower the expectation. And this looks like choosing progress over perfection. If I show up for my 20-minute writing sprint, but I stayed focused that entire time and I only wrote 2 sentences, that's a win. And I am trying to make it so that way I am making it possible for myself to just show up and to do as much as I am capable of. One thing I've learned through business coaches, writing coaches, all of this different content on productivity, it's just about having that first step. It's just about showing up and doing a little bit each day. And I am trying to go with the philosophy that a dissertation can be written on 20 minutes a day rather than these really big expressive writing sprints that I'm used to. I will let you know how it goes, but it has really been helping me psychologically think that ultimately I just need to put in 20 minutes a day and that is enough to make progress towards the dissertation. And so if you can, find a way to incorporate the concept of progress rather than thinking that it needs to be done at 100%. The other facet of this is just because you can doesn't mean you should. I often don't like delegating. I, for example, love editing my own YouTube videos. I love being able to lead meetings and to connect with my team. But just because you can doesn't mean that it is the right thing to be doing. I am learning that just because I can and I want to do something doesn't mean that it's actually what's right for me overall. And I'm having to say no to a lot more things than I used to and set very clear boundaries. But in doing so, that means that I can do more of the things that matter to me. For example, having time for hobbiting, or having time to spend with my partner, or being able to read more books. Just because there are opportunities that come my way, I might get asked to speak at a conference, or I may be asked to go grab coffee with someone for networking opportunities. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And this also applies to an empty calendar. Just because there is a gap in your calendar does not mean that that is free time. Learning to say no, even if it looks like your calendar is quote unquote empty. I want you to go ahead and fill it and say, this is me time, or hobbiting time, or time to be with friends. So that way you're not just filling your calendar for the sake of filling your calendar. And then the last piece to step 4 is it necessary? I am not wearing makeup today. I normally wear makeup for every single video that I post on my channel. And it is quite late in the day. And I decided that it is not necessary for me to put on makeup for this video. And this is the first time I've ever done a sit-down video, not wearing makeup, not really getting dressed up, not going crazy with the editing, because ultimately I want the video to go out and I want to be able to go to sleep tonight at a reasonable hour. And so I now ask myself, Is it necessary? Because ultimately we spend a lot of time doing things that we think others expect of us or that we think will put others at ease. I know, for example, that videos of a woman wearing a bright colored shirt and wearing a lot of makeup is going to perform better than the state I'm in currently. But it's not necessary. The goal for me and my channel is to have fun and to put videos out there that I think are important and that are valuable to people and that I would have benefited from 2 or 3 years ago. And so I am putting this video out there and putting myself out there because I care and because I want this video to be a resource and also a reminder that you don't have to. You don't have to wear makeup. You don't have to get dressed up. You do not have to bend to society's expectations of you if it serves your purpose of living a happy, fulfilled life. And for me, not wearing makeup is part of me being able to have an easier day. And that is more important than this video getting more views. And that leads me to the final step in my realistic time management process, which is to stop comparing. Now, this is the part that I think is perhaps one of the most unrealistic things to expect of all of us. But one thing that I have actually stopped doing recently is I mute and unfollow accounts that lead me to have the thought process, I should be doing more. I just want to say that I think that sometimes my YouTube channel can unfortunately contribute to this. And that is because I have a lot on my plate. And if you are somebody who sees this and you think that you have to do everything to the T and everything to perfection, and you have to have a full-time job while doing a PhD and all those things, you don't have to. If my channel, if my content leads you to compare in a negative way and you think that your life isn't enough, if you are not enough, I don't want to contribute to that. I don't want to follow creators and look at content and put myself in a state of mind where I think that I am not doing enough. Because ultimately, so long as we are prioritizing our health, our relationships, our joy, and we are still showing up and doing our best work, that's generally what matters. I believe in doing a good job for myself, for my teams. I believe in creating content that inspires people. I don't want to contribute to anybody feeling like they are less than. And so I wanted to end this video with this message that one of the most important things to your routine, to your productivity, to your time management is to not waste your life comparing, to not wasting a second thinking that you have to be better, that you have to solve a problem because you have trouble focusing or you tend to procrastinate. I really want to create content and a space here to remind us all that we all do it. We all struggle. I procrastinate. I still spend over an hour scrolling social media on my phone every day, and we don't have to do it perfectly. And anything that makes you think that you do, I just want you to question that a little bit and just know that you have a little bit of control over what you allow into your space. And if there's content or if there's messaging that makes you feel like you aren't doing enough because you aren't overworking yourself, I just want you to try to distance yourself from it and remind yourself that so long as I am happy, I am healthy, I am surrounded by people that I love and that I care about and that care about me, and I feel like I'm doing good work, that's what matters. Ultimately, we just need to make sure that our needs are met. And I do it all because there's nothing in my life right now that I really want to give up. And I have thought long and hard about all of the things that I have going on. I really love all of it. Like, I am a bit stressed because it is a lot to juggle, but there's genuinely not anything in my life right now that isn't contributing to my overall happiness. And I would be remiss if I didn't get to create, if I didn't get to have a job that I really enjoy that helps support and provide stability for me, or to finish a dissertation that I genuinely care about and want to see through to fruition. And so I hope that this video was helpful for you. I wanted to make it in a format that was a little bit more conversational, and that kind of goes against a fair bit of the advice that I see in the productivity space. And just to remind you to prioritize your sanity, your mental health, your relationships above all else. Because if you don't have that, you don't have anything. And so from a former toxic productivity creator, a former consumer of the toxic productivity genre, I just want to share with you some of the things that have been working for me, and I hope that they are helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, please remember to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up, and please leave a comment down below of any tips in this video that were helpful for you, and any tips that have been helpful for you in your own journey towards healthy, happy productivity. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. If you want to go ahead and check out Skillshare for yourself and help develop your creativity, then go ahead and click on the link in the description below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, friends.